Hello, my name is John Michael Foulger. I'm a professional actor known for TV, film, stage, commercials. Been doing it for 30 years. I'm represented by Mary Liz Management. Rory.
Hello, I'm Rory Wilton. I'm with Teresa at Filmcast Corner Southwest. I'm an actor best known for television, film, stage, and voiceover and radio. Emma.
I'm Emma Spurgin Hussey, hello, and I'm an actor and writer. I've done lots of different sorts of acting work over the years, over the many years, and I'm going to hand you over now to Angela.
Hi, my name is Angela Elliott, and I'm a scriptwriter and novelist. I started out in documentaries, done drama and film, and I've been writing for many hundreds of years, it feels like. We are going to be reading 10 pages from Dear John by Dan McCurry. Have to put a little disclaimer on the front of this, as it is about real people. These are not necessarily our opinions, or nor is this the truth. I really don't know, actually. But just take it as read that we're not responsible for any of this, and and I'm sure that, Dan, you've written it with the best of intentions. So, exterior Downing Street day, screen title May 4th, 1979. While crowds cheer in the background, a youthful Margaret Thatcher, 54, is surrounded by uniformed police officers with microphones of various journalists before her.
Her Majesty the Queen has asked me to form a new administration, and I have accepted. It is, of course, the greatest honour that can come to any citizen in a democracy. I know full well the responsibilities that await me as I enter the door of number 10, and I'll strive unceasingly to try to fulfil the trust and confidence that the British people have placed in me.
The crowds cheer. Exterior House of Commons Day. In Parliament Square, the TV news people strike their kit, ready to move on to the next story. Interior Committee Room 9 Day. In a dusty committee room in Parliament, 10 Conservative MPs gather, shaking hands and congratulating each other. They call themselves the Praetorian Guard. Norman Lamont, 37, suave with an Oxbridge accent and the confidence of an investment banker. Scowling Norman Tebbit, 48, an East End tough guy, is at the head of the table, ready to chair the meeting. The only woman is Teresa Gorman, 48. She will later become famous as a rebel.
You can start by wiping that smile off your face.
Silence falls on the room.
Look at the state of you, like a bunch of Cheshire cats waiting for a call from Downing Street. What a joke.
They all look a bit shamefaced.
No one in Cabinet thinks Margaret won. No one in the press does. They think Labour lost and she was just happened to be there. A stopgap until they decide amongst themselves who the real leader is. Every one of them Cabinet members fancies his chances. Geoffrey Howe is already on manoeuvres. Powell is as well. Michael Heseltine's name pops up like some kind of jack-in-a-box, and you lot are slapping each other on the back like it's all over.
I agree. Has anyone looked at these new MPs? Over 100 of them. I recognise the names of maybe a third at most. We have no idea of who these people are or how they'll vote.
Make a list. We need to know who is a supporter and who is an enemy.
Good, but how? You think any one of these people would admit being against the Prime Minister?
No, you don't judge the allegations of a politician by what they say, but by the company they keep. It's the clubs they join, the gatherings they attend. If an MP is rushing off to speak at a homelessness charity or at an NHS event or one of those think tank papers to encourage single mothers to have more babies, then I think we can safely mark them down as an enemy.
We need to be at those events to mark them down. If there's a Westminster panel discussion about police brutality, then that's a room full of enemies. We need to be in there taking names.
One of the newbies coming into my office, who is already of interest, got selected to Huntington at the last minute. He's a complete unknown, but he beat off Michael Howard, Chris Patton, and Peter Lilly in the member selection. A chap called John Major
How does a complete unknown win Huntingdon over the cream of the Conservative Party?
Exterior Westminster Bridge Day, a double-decker bus rolls onto the bridge from South London, approaching the Palace of Westminster. Interior upper deck bus day, sat with his briefcase on his lap, is bespectacled John Major, 36. He speaks with a nasal twang as if from a comprehensive school background, but has a very formal pattern of speech. Besides him is his wife Norma, 37, who holds his hand with excitement.
Oh, look, there it is. You've literally got a clock in your office, or on it at least.
Big Ben appears before them.
Ring the bell, please, Norma. This is my stop.
No, get off at the next stop. I want to stand on the green and watch you walking into Parliament.
I'll be late for swearing in.
Please.
One more stop.
Exterior Westminster Bridge Day, the bus rolls on past Parliament. Ah, I remember. My friend is next door to Huntingdon. She told me the candidate had a wonderful story of overcoming adversity. His father's business went bust and he dropped out of school and had to work night and day. He eventually took evening classes and got into banking.
So, does that put him on the left or right?
Neither. The vote's split by town versus country. It has a good rail links to London. The landowners didn't vote for him, but the commuters did. She said he was popular with people. Exterior Parliament Square Day. John and Norma step off the bus and walk across the grass towards the House of Commons.
This is far enough. I can wave.
I'm not going on a journey, Norma. I'm perfectly confident of being home for tea.
You are going on a journey, you know.
I know.
He kisses her and then walks towards the House of Commons.
So how does Mr. Nice Guy get ahead of three of the best candidates in their generation? We need to know. If he's a friend, we need to bring him in. If he's an enemy, then we have to destroy him before he has a chance to do the same to us.
Exterior Cromwell Green entrance Parliament Day. John gets to the main door where PC Goods stands guard.
Good morning. I have a letter. I was told to... How you...
John Major, Huntingdon constituency.
Well, that's very impressive, officer. Have you memorised every new MP, or am I special?
We do our job, sir. You need to report to Committee Room 11 for your introduction and parliamentary ID. And this is your first big day. I do have to search your briefcase. Is there anything confidential?
Just my wife's recipes.
Sorry, sir.
John looked back towards the square and Norma waves frantically to him. He waves back.
A packed lunch, officer.
He opens his briefcase to show.
Cheese and pickle, not my favourite, but I'd be naked without my briefcase.
My wife makes a packed lunch, sir. I've told her we have very good staff canteen, but she won't take no for an answer.
It's not worth destroying your marriage over, officer.
No, sir, but I am bored with chicken salad Tuesday.
Would it be unethical for an MP to trade with a police officer?
Oh, I don't know, sir, but I am really quite partial to cheese.
The officer steps inside and John gives a final wave to Norma. Interior porch, Cromwell Gate Day. The officer reaches behind his desk and passes John his sandwich. John pops it in his briefcase and hands his over.
Ham and mustard tomorrow, I expect.
Would egg mayonnaise be an equal trade, sir?
Nothing better than egg mayo.
I'll be on duty same time tomorrow, Mr. Major.
Points down the corridor.
Committee Room 11.
Interior Club Room House of Commons Day. 100 Tory MPs mill about chatting. John is collecting his ID card and makes his way over to the coffee and tea table. Lancashire MP chats to him.
100 total newbies all in the same room. It's like a gigantic nursery.
I remember my first day at school. I cried my eyes out. I've had nothing but this beaming smile since arriving here. At last.
Gordon, Lancashire, mid-beds. I know, confusing.
John Major, Huntingdon.
They shake hands.
And who are you voting for, Johnny boy?
Voting?
Well, it's all happening. Thatcher's out. I'll give her 2 weeks.
I don't know. I was only elected on Thursday.
It's on the cards, old boy. Let me give you a tip. Michael Heseltine. Self-made man, great orator, true leader.
I know Mike. At least I've shaken his hand. At a function, we had our photograph taken, although it didn't come out. Save me £1.50.
Glad to hear it. Stick by me, Johnny boy. We'll speak again soon.
Later, John speaks to veteran MP.
And that's how I got selected. And here I am. It was just a bit of luck, really.
So now you're here. Tell me something, John. What do you want?
Another chocolate biscuit would go down well.
I mean for the party. And yourself, your future, John. You know about the leadership contest?
Leadership contest? I wasn't aware.
You should know. Every MP will have a voice in selecting the new leader. The Prime Minister, John. Get it right and you'll have promotion preference. It's an important decision.
But haven't we just won an election with Margaret Thatcher?
It fell in our lap, John. I think you know that. What we need now is a serious man for serious times. There are a few people meeting in half an hour down the corridor. You might want to come along.
I still haven't organised my office.
You're in with Norman Lamont. What's what you say around Norman? This meeting. Do you admire Geoffrey Howe, John?
Geoffrey? Yes, I have great admiration for him, of course.
He admires you.
Really? Wow. It must be that time I met him in Blackpool, the Black Tie Ball. I offered him my seat.
Geoffrey has great interest in you, John. 30 minutes. Strangers' Bar. We'll expect you, will we?
And Geoffrey will be there?
He'll be taking a great interest, John.
Ah.
Interior kitchen, Major's London flat day. The phone is ringing as Norma rushes in and grabs it.
Hello?
Interior, John's office, Westminster Day. John is on the phone to Norma, intercut between them.
Ah, a friendly voice.
How's your first day?
Exhausting. It's an absolute snake pit, Norma. You know this talk about Margaret Thatcher not being around for the next general election? Maybe even facing a challenge within the year.
Yes, I was rather worried about her.
Well, don't be too worried. But the point everyone is positioning, I mean everyone, right to my face.
God, it sounds awful.
I had to escape at one point. I went for a walk around the estate, but talked to a tourist guide and asked who the various busts were of. I thought it would take my mind off things. This one got executed, this one got burned at the stake, and this one hung, drawn and quartered. Nothing's changed in 500 years.
Oh my God, there's no escaping.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love it here. I'm just fearful that I'll end up becoming like them.
I've got a better idea. Why don't you make a promise right now that rather than you becoming like them, you make them become like you?
That sounds wonderful. If it wasn't for the last statue the lady showed me, they chopped him up, burned into an ash, and then stamped the dust into the pavement. Guess what his crime was?
Go on.
He tried to change the system.
Norma laughs. So that's the end of our excerpt. Okay. It's a difficult one to appraise. I actually did read this before, which is unusual because I normally just read them cold, and I normally don't read them and until we are recording. So it needs a title page. Can't go anywhere without a title page. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, really. I'm just not sure I care enough about them. But it's maybe because I lived through it. So
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah.
and so I don't know, unless Norma and John are going to suddenly live in some other world that we weren't aware of. Also, you do have to be very careful when people are still alive. Margaret Thatcher, Tebbit, Theresa Gorman and Lamont, all dead and gone. So
Wikipedia says Tebbett's still alive.
Tebbett's still alive, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it claims. Just double check that.
Must be about 300 by now.
Could be, yes. In
yes.
Dante's Limbo.
The undead, they never die.
It's
But
true.
I don't know. I'm always very hesitant about doing anything where people are alive. Let's put it that way. I think you just have to be so careful with your storyline. And usually when anything like this, like The Crown, for instance, or something, there'll be lawyers all over it before it'll get anywhere. So nothing inherently wrong with it. It's a good, as a script, technically, it's got everything it needs. It's got the place. It's got the date, which is something we
Got the where and when.
Yeah, John, what do you think?
This is so far away from my political stance. Well, the actual people were, and their politics. Like you say, it's well written. The characters are rounded. We already know who they are. There is humour in there, but they're Tories, and I've got absolutely no interest in it. I'm sorry for being blunt about that. I mean, as a script, yes. But the content, I could care less.
The difficult one.
I feel similar to both of you. I think it's technically is really well written. It's nicely structured. It moves along swiftly. We're starting to care about John and Norma. I think there's potential for an interesting historical kind of re-examination of that period of British politics, the beginning of the proper downfall of the Conservatives after the Thatcher years, and the rise of Labour. I think it's unfortunate timing for it, because I think that Conservatives are really falling out of favour with everybody, even the Conservatives, whether this will find a market, I think is tricky, and whether people will have an appetite for it. It's the complete opposite of my kind of political standing too, and having lived through those years, it fills me with a shudder down the spine remembering what it was like to live through those days. Technically very good. I think it's got potential if it can find a market, really, and if it can find an audience.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Emma.
Well, I'm extremely right wing, as you know, so
That's why I love you.
I think there's lots very interesting. I mean, I'm wondering what it is that you're going to be doing with this. I mean, firstly, in terms of, is it a film? Is it a play? I guess it's a film, or is it a series? I'm just not quite sure on the format that you're going with. And also, what are you doing in terms of, that kind of horrible question that people always ask you as a writer, like commissioning people, like, why this and why now? And I wonder why this and why now, really, because there's something possibly quite delightful about the idea of this couple going around on buses and making each other. Well, I think he's a bit off, really, to moan about the sandwiches she's diligently making for him. But there's something quite sweet about those two, and it could be quite endearing. And actually, I think history, in some ways, has been quite kind to John Major, because he's sort of, it's a bit like with George W. Bush. You look back and you think, post Mr. Trump, he seems quite statesmanlike. Post this lot, Major seemed quite decent and doesn't like Brexit. And so, there's lots of quite interesting things that could be pulled out from here. But I mean, is it satire? Is it what kind of tone, I suppose.
It's difficult to tell within
I
these
can't
few
quite
pages.
tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm wondering. There's a Powell mention. I don't know, could that be Enoch still at that point? I don't remember him being current then, but I could be wrong. I'm just crossing off my little notes. Yeah, it's a nice contrast between the sort of, snake pit of Tebbit and co. and the sort of rather quaint thing of the more innocent John and Norma on the bus, and her wanting to wave him off. Tell us about the nasal twang of John Major, if you feel you need to, if you're possibly younger people who can't place that voice in their head. But I would suggest that we should be able to hear and see the formal speech pattern in your writing. So perhaps no need to say that. And also, just a rather pejorative comprehensive school background. I went to a comprehensive and believe I don't have a nasal twang, so it's not inevitable.
Me too.
Some words, just thinking about the I mean, it's very difficult when you set something in the past, even the comparatively recent past, the lived past. It's difficult because, you can either really try and go for pinpointing exactly how people may have spoken then, or keep it kind of quite neutral. And I think mostly you've kept it quite neutral. There are some words that, just to be picky, I would, if you really, would like to look into this, that are slightly jangled with me as being maybe a bit more recent. I'll tell you what they were. Mayo for mayonnaise, newbies, what was it? I can't remember what it was. Something like cheese sandwich Tuesday or chicken sandwich Tuesday. That was it, because we have like taco Tuesdays and things, and that's comparatively recent. And wow, I don't think people were saying wow then. They did in the 60s, they do now, but I think we had a bit of a kind of a lull in wowing in the late 70s. These are tiny things, but I think just you're trying to create this suspension of disbelief.
80s.
I think
This
he's more
is
likely to say
79,
gosh,
this.
isn't he? Or something.
What's that?
Even
Does
more
it
likely to say
say?
gosh or something, or golly, or
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, you're right. Sorry, 79.
good grief,
yeah.
something
Sorry.
like that.
Yeah.
79, you were still in the punk era.
Mm,
Yes, you were.
yeah.
We were moving from there to
But when you look back at documentaries and
Yeah.
stuff about the late 70s, I
Well,
mean,
it was-
when
it was
you're
pretty
talking to
much
kind of people
still-
like this, they sound like they're from the 1950s.
It
Yes,
does look a long
I was
time
gonna
ago.
say, it was still BBC English then.
Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Just-
So.
All the interviewers and everybody was still very much BBC English.
Mhm.
I've nearly finished. I would just say with some of these words, if a couple of people that read it say these words seem to jar a little bit, is you can look up when they were first used in this country, the first sort of evidence of them being used in print. And I would sort of give them a bit of time, because quite often we think, oh yes, they were wearing these clothes in that year and this furniture was coming out, but actually most people had older furniture. Most people, especially people in this sort of world, wouldn't have been up with current talk. So I would just err on the side of I suppose just caution and a sort of plainer vocabulary.
Formality,
Yeah. And I think I liked the veteran MP. There's some nice character stuff. And I think it's interesting. I mean, it could be actually, rather than bad timing, excellent timing. You can never tell, can you? Just looking at John Major in hindsight. So yeah, I thought it was interesting and would like to see how it plays out, because I don't think it's going to make me be really extremely right-wing, but I do think that it's interesting to see how people, possibly younger people, look at times that we actually have to live through.
Yeah.
You're all the same, you Thatcher loving right wing
I
people.
wondered if trying to view this purely as imaginary characters rather than characters that we know. I do think there is something in this relationship between Norma and John. It's quite amusing, and I can see that relationship. I'm wondering though whether the start, which does take how many pages? We're looking at 3 pages of I guess it's set up really to say Margaret Thatcher's taken over, and what are we going to do about it, etc., etc. So you are setting something up, but I'm wondering whether you grabbed the right tone. It really does depend on whether this is a serious drama or whether it's satire or just out and out comedy, or what are you going for? And I think you could definitely introduce the bus earlier and intersperse those scenes with them in the committee room, having that conversation with a bit of bus, with John and Norma on the bus, and a quick, ooh, look, ooh, and just start to set up that relationship, and then the seriousness of the conversation. You get then the juxtaposition between Tebbit and Gorman and Lamont, and it's all this serious. Ooh, we need to know who's the enemy, and but you're seeing them as they approach Westminster, and it's all rather lovely, actually. Oh, I'm going to be and then I think when you come to, you're waiting for. You want to like them then at that point, don't you?
Yeah.
I just remember John Major was incredibly grey.
Yes.
You didn't realise he was that young. He's the age in this that my son is now. And I'm trying to imagine my son doing that. And I'm thinking, God, they were old before their time, weren't they?
Yeah. He looked about 50 when he became an MP to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't realised
it's
he was
extraordinary.
that young.
Wow.
No, I hadn't either.
It's
Well, I mean, I have to agree with Rory. I mean, he looked like an old man
yes,
when he started.
yes.
Yeah.
In fact, he looks younger now. And I remember him.
Well, he's one of those people that's got a portrait of Dorian Gray, and he's
I mean, has he just grown into his face?
like, as we said, Mick Jagger,
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. It was
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did actually quite enjoy it.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. So thank you for that.
Enjoyed the humour in it very much so.